Thank you. Okay, it's 5:30. I would like to call to order the regular meeting, or I should say, corrected, the special meeting of the Planning Commission today, Tuesday, July 9th. This isn't our normal meeting Tuesday, but we felt that with what was on the agenda that it was important to have all of the commissioners here. So with that, the land that we know as Sequim was once inhabited solely by the first peoples known as the S'Klallam people, represented by the three tribal governments, Lower Elwha S'Klallam, Jamestown S'Klallam, and Port Gamble S'Klallam. We serve as stewards to the land within the city of Sequim with the same care and consideration the S'Klallam tribes has and continues to provide. This acknowledgement is a respect to the S'Klallam people and their history. The Planning Commission serves as an advisory body to the City Council. The purpose of the Planning Commission is to provide guidance and direction for Sequim's future growth through continued review and improvement of Sequim's comprehensive plan, zoning code, shoreline management, environmental protection, and related land use documents. The Planning Commission will have all of the powers and perform each and all of the duties specified by Chapter 35A.63 RCW as amended and set forth or amended by ordinance. Emily, would you please take roll call at this time?
Absolutely. Commissioner Carter.
Present.
Commissioner Coons.
Present.
Commissioner Cummings.
Present.
Commissioner Fain.
Present.
Commissioner Hewitt.
Present.
Commissioner Lefevre. And welcome back, Commissioner Mahalik.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, approval of minutes. This will be for the June 18th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, are there any corrections? No? Okay. Is there anybody that'd like to make a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes as written.
Thank you. Commissioner Frayne, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, meeting minutes stand approved for June 18th. And I already signed them for you, just in case they'd be approved. Yeah. Okay, it looks like I skipped item number 3. So let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, public comment. General public comment will be heard at this time. Each person is limited to 3 minutes. For those wishing to speak on public hearing topics, please hold those comments until that portion of the meeting, which there's not a public hearing tonight. And so this will be the time that if there's anybody present that would like to give public comment, this would be the time to do so. So we have a full room, and I'm sure that there will be some public comment from within the room. So I think that I am going to have Emily check and see if there's anybody online first that would like to provide public comment. And we will circle back, but let's see if there's anybody at this point.
There is no one online.
Okay, thank you. And just to let you know, if you would like to provide public comment tonight and you have not signed the sign-up sheet, please take a moment to do that. And I know that we do have some people that'd like to provide public comments. So Emily, will you please call them up?
All right, we'll start off with Judy Hatch.
I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, good enough. I'm a resident of Juniper Mobile Estates. And as that, we have a real vested interest in what you all have been doing with the overlay. And I really want to thank you for all the work you've put into it. It's just amazing that it's, for me, that it's gone so well. But what I wanted to comment on tonight was a couple of the standards, the uses and standards. This would be specifically 6, F, and G, and number 14. They all sort of clump together because they are all to the same purpose. If these were enforced, there is a good possibility we could save a life. Okay? Let me explain this. Last year, all of our street signs were taken down. We asked why. The response was, well, the city said we had to take them down. Well, what are you going to replace them with? Well, we'll work that out. Letters went out. We're not allowed to go to the office, so we have to communicate by email or whatever. The last communication I had with the office was about 6 weeks ago, and I said, look, we got some issues. Still nothing. She said, oh, that's a good idea to do that. It's so much. The problem comes when people are looking for a specific number on a house number. Now, we're a senior park. You have to be 62 to move in. So we have a lot of 911 calls, believe it or not. There have been times when we've seen the ambulance crews going door to door to try to find a particular number. Our numbers are generally posted on the beam that goes across the carport, but they're those little plastic things you press on. Most everybody has put other numbers on the front of their trailers or whatever they have. But at night, it's horrible. Last year, my friend Mary Ellen and me, we did a walk around, and out of 63 homes, 33 of the lights were not functioning. These are the metal ones, that they put in the yard so they go up. Can you see this? Would you be able to see this if it was attached to your front door? This is what we sent to the manager. No response. Absolutely no response. If we have a 911 at night, the light has to come from the fire truck because they have this great big searchlight that goes in this, so they'll go on. We've got 5 streets. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The numbers are not 1 through 10 or anything like that. So finding them is a real problem. So when I looked at your proposed standards, I almost cried. I thought, so simple, and yet we have been fighting for 2 years just to try to get this done. The worst thing that could possibly happen would be somebody dies because the paramedics are still driving around trying to find the numbers. Like I said, we're an older group. We get a lot of 911 calls. The last thing we need is a disaster that didn't need to happen. And I really appreciate your considering getting these things done. It's certainly a move in the right direction. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Judy. Yeah, it's Juniper Estates. What's the name? Okay. Emily, do we have another person?
There is still no one online, and there is one more, Tina Becker. Did I say that right? Dang it. All right. Well, come on up.
Actually, this is how I knew they wanted me in school. They never could get the name right. Anyway, hi, Tina Boker. I live in Hendrickson Heritage Estates in Sequim. And from what Judy was saying, yeah, I actually delivered some pet supplies to a house there and I saw it myself. I saw the ambulances, the UPS, the FedEx guys going round and round and round because suddenly the street signs that they were used to were gone and they couldn't find anything. And you may be used to seeing numbers, but when everything else is gone, it doesn't help you. So that's just something for Judy. As Judy said, thank you so much for everything that you're doing for us. We really, really appreciate it. I did have one concern though, and it's happened multiple times now, and this is why I bring it up. Public notice. It is exactly what it is. Public notice. The notice is given to the public, and the onus is upon them to either be a part of the process or not. Multiple times comments have been made that certain factions of these proceedings with the MHP overlays should be given extra notice to do the job right. And that concerns me because it seems like we're veering off possibly into favoritism. And I hope we don't do that because you guys have done such a great job. You've worked so hard to help us and we really appreciate it. So I just wanted to bring that up because it's not just me that's concerned. It's a lot of other people when we keep hearing that same comment coming up over and over again. So anyway, thank you very much for your time and for everything you've done for us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so those are the only two names that are on the list. Okay,
Correct,
is
yeah.
there anybody online?
No.
Okay. Is there anybody else at this time that would like to provide public comment by signing the sheet? Okay. Then at this time, I will close the public comment portion of this meeting and get back up to my agenda. Okay, general business, item number 6.
Before you go on, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I don't know what the person was referring to in terms of public notice. Are you aware of what she's talking about?
I am, and I was
Okay.
going to bring it up when we talk about, I wrote it down
Okay.
because I have a question about it as well.
Okay.
Okay, and I can explain it further, Jeff, or Commissioner Carter, when we get there. General business, our new director, Lindsay. Let's see, led a discussion with the commission, outlined the next steps. Okay, she recommended a site visit to be conducted to gain understanding for the manufactured home sites that we have in town. Did you want to talk about that a little bit, or?
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Okay,
I have
sure.
a very brief PowerPoint to go through some of the code that has been shared with the commission and finalize some of the draft language for preparation for site visits, as well as the public hearing that is tentatively scheduled for August 6th. So if you could give me a moment to get Zoom presenting so that those.
So my apologies if I put you on the spot because I did not scroll far enough up. So that was under our minutes from our last meeting on June 18th. But I think you were planning on talking about that anyway, right?
The
field trip we're going to take?
Yeah, that's
and
the
such?
topic
Okay.
of tonight's agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All the rest of the stuff for MHP.
Okay.
So just one moment. Emily, I do not seem to have a share screen. Oh, it's green. She does it all, in case anybody was wondering. Okay. So tonight I have as I mentioned, I have a very brief presentation, kind of summarizing the reason why we're here, the work that you guys have done, so great work that has been done to date, and Some recommendations for the field trip. We need to talk a little bit on the logistics of the field trip and speak to the uses and standards that have been provided to you that are currently in 1862. So for the background of the project, as you guys are very aware, Senate Bill 5198 amended some RCWs to regulate the sale and lease of manufactured mobile home communities effective around this time last year. And then House Bill 1220 was adopted, amending the RCW to require provisions for affordable housing. That was effective in 2021. So the city of Sequim has adopted 2 6-month interim moratoriums on the redevelopment of mobile home manufactured home parks. One in 2023 and the most recent in February of this year, extending it to August 12th. As you're aware, and I briefed at your last meeting on June 18th, that I have discussed with the city council and have been given the go-ahead to present to them, excuse me, at their next meeting, another 6-month moratorium, allowing the planning commission to do a little additional work, site visits of the parks that are proposed for the overlay, and finishing up the uses and standards, making sure that what is drafted in 1862 is applicable to continue forward for the implementation of 1863 that is proposed. As you notice on the slide, City Council will be considering that ordinance on July 22nd. That will be a public hearing, first reading, and likely adoption all at the same night. That work program that is being drafted in that ordinance identifies the site visit, the time needed to issue the SEPA, including all required notices under state law for a non-project action SEPA decision. The direction to date on the overlay, as you're familiar, adopt the new code, Sequim Municipal Code Draft 1863, as drafted with my predecessors. Revise any changes in 1862 necessary and other ancillary codes, and adopt a citywide zoning map amendment for the overlay to implement. I have highlighted in yellow here 1820. 1820 is our zoning district use table. Prior predecessor had recommended putting the overlay uses in this chapter. I would not recommend that. I would recommend that they stay in 1862 as they currently are, because the overlay is not a zone, but an overlay to the underlying zone. And 1820 is specific to the zones themselves. So for cleanliness, clarity in processing, it did not feel appropriate to put an overlay uses with the rest of the zoning district uses. But I do recommend them staying in 1862 to support the draft 1863. So we have this is not the full list of uses that you have been provided in 1862. This slide is a brief of the uses in there. So before I go in and kind of just start talking about them, I want to know if you guys have any questions, since you've had the uses now for about 2 or 3 weeks to review. If there's anything that jumps out at you and or any recommendations or considerations that you would like to begin the discussion with.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Cummings.
So with all these changes in our codes and the overlay, will that be retroactive for existing, manufactured homes, subdivisions, or is this all going to be part of the permitting on new mobile home parks, manufactured home parks?
So if there is an existing park, it's dependent upon the standards of when they developed. But if they were to come in and say want to site a new unit, then we could potentially require some improvements. The initial code for the uses was first adopted in 1997 and amended in 2018 and 2021. So if there are manufactured or mobile home parks in the city of Sequim that were developed prior to 1997, those standards may not have been required, such as the lighting and the other issues we heard from the public comment. So that is actually something that I would like to follow up with Judy about.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So my understanding, because my question kind of goes this in the same direction, on page 3 of 5, F, where it says street names, each manufactured home park street must be named, and the street name sign must be provided at all intersections. Street names must be approved by the city. Each manufactured home must have a clearly visible address number. So that, if that's something is required, and I think, and maybe when you follow up with Judy, if there needs to be some clarification, because I think what she was trying to say is that there are not street names at this point. It's hard for people to find, and then the street numbers. So is this something that, should this be passed, that the city will say, hey, this is something that needs to.
For new development, we would be enforcing it and requiring it on the face of either the binding site plan
Okay.
or subdivision. If the park was established prior to 1997, I would have to look at the conditions of approval for when that was established to see if the city at that time required the installation and maintenance of them.
Because I do think that's reasonable.
It's very
you know,
reasonable.
to-
Life
I mean-
safety issues, yes.
Yeah. So is there any kind of an avenue, like if it was before you said 1987 or 1997? Is there any kind of an avenue to incentivize the park to get street?
I'd have to talk with
names?
my building official because I
Okay.
do know that that is also an ancillary requirement out of the fire code and the building code. So I would need to get back to you specifically that site and that development, but also
Okay.
if we can proactively enforce the replacement of that and support the unit owners in getting better reflective
Okay.
signage.
And if the street names have to be approved by the city, that we could, we would just know that it's something that.
I would hope that that was already done and that it is the case that Judy's speaking of, that it was a personal choice to remove them.
Okay.
So I will double check that. though.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions at this point? No? Okay. I did want to touch on the extra notice for public comment, but let's go through this first.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the uses in 1862 have been, like I stated, in effect since 1997 and amended in 2018 and 2021. These uses are allowed throughout the development of new and or manufactured mobile home parks that have been adopted since then. It's staff's recommendation that we retain them as drafted. They are written well, they can apply well, and development has occurred in this way. These apply effectively for the existing properties. There may be some active code enforcement issues and or unknown code enforcement issues for older sites that may not be aware of the conditions of requirements. But I do recommend that we do not eliminate any of the uses. And I recommend that we do not significantly alter any of the development standards. So that's staff's recommendation. I did want to verbalize that with you and allow you guys to converse about it.
Okay, thank you.
I have a
Commissioner Miller.
question.
Sure.
Hi.
Hi.
In the adopted code, it does say that all streets within the mobile home park will be public. Since they are public streets, the street signs within the park are public, therefore Sequim.
They would be if this was the specific one of topic was developed when this code was in place. So we do have some private streets and we have some old subdivisions that do have old private streets still.
Okay, so any further streets, the council is not going to take these on as being public. They will be future streets. Streets will be, they're not considered now, so they couldn't move forward with
If
street signage.
It depends on that plat.
Okay, well, I would presume since this is a 2024, and I remember the discussion about mobile home parks becoming public or being private, and that was the previous engineer. And
Yeah, we do want, regardless of the unit typology, single family, apartments, mobile home, we do want all new streets and all land division to be public right of way. If there are public utilities underneath it, we need to be able to access them at that time, whenever we need to.
thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Larry?
Just a question on the storage buildings for tenants only, your item 7. Should that or could that be expanded to include the owner of the park and or the manager of the park? Is that something that we've built in kind of a oddity here?
Well, if they're a tenant of the park, but that would be an office, then that would be a commercial use if they're not a resident, it's not ancillary to a residential use, potentially.
Right, but I'm saying if we talk about they can have an office there, we talk about there could be an on-site manager there who's living there,
Right.
but isn't a tenant, but is
If they need a separate building for storage, that would be a challenge. If they can put their storage in their office building,
okay.
then the way,
I just want to make sure we don't
Yeah.
have something that we've built in a challenge here.
well, we don't want them to become storage sites either. And so we want to respect the residents that do live there so that mini storage units don't go up on the kind of operators area.
I have a question on that for clarity. So under 18.62.040, under uses permitted,
Mhm.
which is A, it says number 5, a manufactured home park office and storage buildings necessary for the maintenance and operation of the manufactured home park.
Yes.
So
So that is covered. Yes. Thank you.
okay, and then number 6, it says a residence for the use of the manager or caretaker, which may be manufactured, modular, or site-built home. So am I reading it correctly that the park could have a storage built, whatever necessary for maintenance and operation? They
Correct.
could have a storage.
Five
and a
authorizes
designated home for the manager. Okay.
and then 7 under here says that the residents so 7 ultimately gives the residents of the manager a storage building for residential needs too.
All right. Thank you. Anything else? No? Okay. Do you have anything else to add on this?
Not specific to the uses or development standards.
I read through it a couple times and I didn't really see any glaring issues. Just a couple
It's
things
written
that I
pretty well.
asked. I mean, I'm ready to send it forward. but I just wanted to see how the commission feels. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or issues or?
Okay,
Okay, I like it.
thank you. Moving
Yeah.
forward in the slide, let me see where I'm at. This one? Yep. Okay, so we've gone through, staff will draft the notice for public hearing with the recommendations of the uses remaining the same in 1862. And to incorporate and reference in that's a typo, that should be 1863. The reference and incorporate the overlay zone of 1863 and point it back to 1862. We do need to issue a SEPA decision, and that would be a determination of non-significance likely for the non-project action. And that will get mailed to the property owners and the 300 feet, I believe it's 300 feet from each site, that they will be invited to the Planning Commission public hearing. The Planning Commission, staff will prepare a written recommendation for the chair and the commission to consider that will be the basis of the public hearing topics. That will include the overlay map that you guys have seen. It will include the draft language that in the overlay zone of 1863. And then the recommendation will be forwarded to council. I'm hopeful the council will hear the ordinance in September and or maybe October, but ideally for me before budget season. And so City Council will have a first reading, then they will do a public hearing on on the final ordinance and recommendation. So that is the step forward. We may not even need the full 6 months on the next moratorium that I'm taking to council. However, it gives us grace for that time period, and it gives council time as well to really digest all of the work that you guys have done for them to complete a recommendation.
Okay, and so a question for you. So should this be extended for another 6 months? This is the last time that we can extend it, correct? Okay, so this is
the last time we can extend the moratorium that is currently protecting the redevelopment of these sites.
okay. And do you anticipate that that all of this work will be completed within that time? I mean, I feel like it will be, but
definitely. Okay. I was prepared to try to work within the existing 6-month moratorium, but that would have required us to be doing our public hearing probably last week or even this week at the special meeting. It's really ideal to make sure that we're doing this in a manner that is appropriate and slow. And it's important that City Council understands all of the work that you guys have done. So I wanted to be able to put the best staff presentation and Planning Commission recommendation forward for you. So this really is grace on my part I'm requesting. And so I'm grateful that you guys understand the need for that and understand to make sure that we continue the momentum forward.
okay, thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any comments at this time about that? No? Okay. Okay, so we are going to talk about our field trip next, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me go to the map. So first issue is logistics. The city of Sequim does not have a 12-person van for the whole commission to be able to tour. So one of the thoughts that I had was I could ask the commission to go out in pairs, go do a tour prior to the meeting. We could split multiple cars. The intent of the tour was not to have discussions at the site, but to go by, drive by, think about the uses, the development standards, and then come back to the dais, record our meeting, and have our conversation. So it's really a logistics conversation at this point for the tour. I believe there are about 13 sites. We did do a map quest. It said it would take about 40 minutes to drive around the city and stop at each one for a couple minutes. I can try to find 2 vehicles so that we could do it as a commission, or I could ask you guys if you want an assignment before the next meeting. Either work for me, but it is up to you and what you think would be best for your understanding, your comprehension as you're going out and looking at, sometimes developments done in the 60s or 70s and some that might are still being built out today.
Okay. Is there a possibility to rent a van, or
I
could we
didn't think
reach-
about that. I
Yeah.
reached out to Clallam Transit to see if they'd scooch us around. They didn't get back to me, but I was
Okay.
hoping as a fellow transit planner, they might be like, yeah, we'll see.
You might reach out to the irrigation festival. We could ride around in their royalty van, and it seats 12.
Yeah.
Wave.
Okay.
And I am on the insurance, so I could drive.
Yeah. Okay. So I will request Emily reach out to the irrigation festival. We did talk about potentially reaching out. I do know that there are some other nonprofits and supporters of the community that have vehicles. I just wasn't sure if we'd be able to confirm that by next Tuesday.
Okay. And then also, Lori Mittman, who owns Peninsula Adventure Sports, she is well-versed and has a lot of connections with charter vans,
Okay.
like renting them for her events. And so she might know of somebody that could, and I can give you her contact information.
That would be awesome. Thank you. When we'll make those phone calls tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
In the meantime, if there is a no on a van, worst case scenario.
I mean, we could do two vehicles.
Okay.
I was just thinking for a collaboration, and since technically under the Public Meetings Act, it might be best for all of us to be together if we can do that.
Mhm.
So our discussions are all, not individual with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And that would be easier for me to keep an eye on you guys to not talk about
Hey.
topic too.
I have a
Yeah.
1987 pickup truck with a large bed.
Just hop in the back. I don't know if the city's insurance policy would handle that.
Yeah.
But I think we
Yeah,
can.
we don't have
I think we can
scooters.
pivot. Yeah, it's a great idea. I think we can, if we can't get one vehicle for all of us, we'll just pivot, to the next best option.
I'll give you a call later
Okay.
this week and we'll confirm what we are
All
able
right.
to do.
Thank you. Yes, Eileen?
Is there any way we could kind of narrow down our comments or have like a checklist when we go by the different properties, since we're going by quite a few, and
So
so we can say, oh, this property, didn't have storage or street signs, or, what specifically are we looking for?
we're not out there doing the work of the code enforcement officer.
Oh, darn.
Well, I'll start with that. But we do have submit a code enforcement claim on our city website. We will be looking at how the placement and these standards and uses and just the preservation, the housing typology, really getting an understanding of the neighborhoods that we may not have visited during the time while we're working on the standards and the codes and the overlays. And so I think it just makes us more of a well-versed group to truly have the experience of whether it's walking through the neighborhood or at least putting yourself in the neighborhood for a few minutes to understand how well they work together and or some of the frustrations and challenges that they have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay. And how about, will you let us all know time frame for next week?
Yes.
On what'll work?
So we've tentatively have put it at I think it was 4 to 5, 3:30 to 5 to allow for a break before the dais, depending on the van options and the logistics of travel. That may change a little bit, but currently we're looking at the special meeting occurring from 3:30 to 5.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else on this before I jump into my questions about the extra notice and public comment? No? Okay. So I did, and Emily, maybe you can help on this too, because I know that, our second public comment was directed towards a couple times that the commission has asked if there was any input from the property owners. And some of those questions had happened before, when Sharice was still here. And I do understand that it is the responsibility of the property owner to know about public comment. But I would like some clarification on something, because I just want to make sure that we are, that across the board, we are being fair. One of the things that Sharice had mentioned was that when we did have this on our agenda in the past, and this is maybe when Emily can jump in, we did contact, some people that were involved in being here, like, park residents, to let them know it was on our agenda. So I guess I wanted to know if we provided that to them and not to the property owners, or how did that all transpire?
If somebody contacts the city and says, I'm an interested party in this topic,
Okay.
we will contact them about the time when that topic will be coming up.
Okay.
Or if people sign up to the Planning Commission email notices through the city's website, they can get the information from the agendas as well.
Okay.
So transparency is really important, and there is a lot of opportunity to understand about the process and the work that's going on. I will say that because this was a legislative directed work program, for like different types of permits, if it was a site-specific rezone where I came in and said, I want to rezone my property, I would have had to notify the city for me, would have had to notify my neighbors that I've applied to do this.
Okay.
Because it's a legislative one, there isn't necessarily a preliminary public notice for hearing. It would be through the SEPA, through the notice of public hearing for the recommendations and for city council.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Just for clarification, it came up because the property owner was the person who was being notified. The tenants don't own the land. And that's where the confusion, and we said, well, what about the tenants being notified? And that's where the little technicality was.
Yeah.
We have a number of these mobile home parks, but they're not the landowner. So
So under code, it is the property owner that gets the formal notification under state law, but there is nothing that limits the city from being able to provide additional notice.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah.
So there are required minimums that it's a property owner and within 300 feet,
Right.
but there's nothing stating that if somebody signed up to be an interested party that we can't tell them because they're not a property owner.
Right. I think that where the commission was confused was just because we know that during the meetings when this topic is on the agenda, that there have been people, which, is great, that have said, hey, I'm interested in this, and we send them notification and they're here.
Yes.
And so did the landowners have the same opportunities to request?
I don't believe we have done any formal public notice because we have not gotten to a recommendation
Okay.
yet.
Because we're,
The code hasn't required that yet because the
Okay.
SEPA hasn't been done
Okay.
and the public hearing hasn't been scheduled yet for the
Okay.
rezone.
so once that happens, they will get notification and they will still have an opportunity to comment if they.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we don't, get a month from now and we have
No,
somebody showing up saying,
that could create some
you never
appeal
said
process.
anything to
Yeah.
us, which I know I just want to make sure that we've fulfilled our responsibilities.
Yeah.
Okay.
And additionally, we post each property with signage, correct, of public notice.
No, this would be a citywide rezone on the overlay because it's a citywide overlay. It's not a site specific, so we would not post each site.
They wouldn't.
No.
Because there is a possibility that some of these tenants, they don't know a thing about this.
Would
The
the
tenants or
planning?
the landowners?
tenants.
Tenants.
Oh, okay. That don't know anything about the,
What's going on? I mean,
Mm.
it hasn't been in the paper, right?
oh, I see what you're saying.
It's not.
Mm.
So these are people who have been here for a number of the meetings. There are other tenants and landowners and 14 parks?
Yeah.
It's a lot of parks.
Larry?
Well, I asked a couple meetings ago and Sharice was here. So I think we've gone through all the procedures we would normally do. We haven't done anything outside I think that's what I heard from the public comment, to make sure that we didn't do anything outside for one group or the other.
Correct.
And so I was comfortable then. From what I'm hearing from you today, I'm comfortable that everybody had an equal opportunity to be aware of what we were doing through our website, through the email notification, through everything else. And nobody got a special notification
Correct.
outside of our normal process. So I feel very comfortable that
Yeah,
you got the answer. We're good. We did everything we should do.
I do too. I just, for clarity,
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure. Jeff?
Unfortunately, I disagree because everything we should do is the absolute minimum that's required. This has been a long-standing topic prior to, for many years, about a couple extra steps in public notice, not just what the state requirement is, but what do we think is right as a community? It's not about special interest groups, it's about neighbors and community.
Mhm.
So I would be really interested again in options. What can we do without favoring groups, but including neighbors and neighborhoods who may not have access to computers or can afford a newspaper subscription or whatever it might be, that they don't have the same access that many of us have, that they should know from us proactively. That's all.
Yeah, and Sequim Municipal Code Title 2001-160 does identify optional additional public notice. And I'll go ahead and read it for the record. The optional public notices, as optional methods of providing public notice of any project permits, the city may, 1, notify the public or private groups with known interest in a certain proposal or in the type of proposal being considered. 2, notify news media. 3, place notices in appropriate regional or neighborhood newspapers or trade journals. 4, publish notice in agency newsletters or send notice to agency mailing lists, either general lists or lists for specific proposals. Mail to potentially affected property owners, and place notices on the internet. And then B lists that the failure to provide optional public notice, the city's failure to provide optional notice as described shall not be grounds for invalidation. So the city council has considered and adopted code to go above and beyond the state law. Yeah, the city council has in Title 20. I
Sorry,
would have,
they have adopted
They've
it. We
adopted
just-
it, but it doesn't apply to us.
It does, but
Oh.
I would
But the
have to look
commission
back
has
at what the prior
Oh, I see.
predecessors
Yeah,
did,
yeah.
but it sounds like they did provide an additional optional notice by informing the residents and the other at the beginning.
But that is a good point that Jeff brought up, because I know, like my dad he has no computer. He has a flip phone. He doesn't talk to his neighbors. And so and he's not, I think the neighbors prefer it that way, but but it is true that, like Jeff said, he might not be connected with his fellow neighbors if he doesn't live in one of these parks, but
We could, well, we do send our SEPA decisions to the newspaper, as well as we have to publish it in the paper. Something like this may likely create a reporter to contact me and ask for a story.
okay.
So, I mean, I do anticipate that the power in numbers will grow.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Jeff, you look like you're pondering.
I'm not sure I understood Karen's explanation to me. So can you expound on that?
as Lindsay said, the council said there are optional notifications above and beyond state minimums in the code.
Mhm.
So if the commission so desired, they could request any one of the optional notifications.
Okay,
It's in the code.
okay.
We haven't. And we have discussed, Sharice discussed, how do we let the tenants know and how do we let the property owners know? Well, the property owners haven't been publicly noticed because it hasn't gone to public hearing. But there was a big council meeting where it did get a lot of information, just not everybody got noticed.
Okay, so we have to specifically request it as a planning commission?
I would think, because it's not, she is not tasked to go above and beyond unless the council has a directive.
Gotcha.
Sorry, Lindsay is not tasked. I mean,
And that could be something the commission considers in their recommendation as well, as you move it forward to public hearing for city council. In addition to recommending it to me tonight in advance of your public hearing.
So hypothetically speaking, we could request that all property owners and residents receive notification via mail. I mean, I'm just hypothetically.
So hypothetically, that would be impossible because property owners are recorded with the county and the title agency is how we get their mailing address. So renters don't have a recorded title to be able to give us that information. It would be a hand billing, most likely.
we could do a public notice
Well,
sign.
I should say residents, if they're not listed on the title of the land,
Oh, I see.
the title company will not be able to pull their name and address.
Is there,
Public notice signage.
how about like public notice signage, or even, I mean, like at the properties? Would we be able to do that? Is there any?
I would have to talk with the city attorney because
Okay.
there are let's see here, place notices in appropriate regional or neighborhood newspapers or trade journals. It does not, okay, let's see here.
Because I think that,
I would have to talk with the city attorney about that because site-specific signs are site-specific
Okay.
typically. And so it could create more of a concern that it's not a citywide. So we'll have to.
because I think that it is a valid point. I mean, obviously there's a great network of residents that share information with each other and are invested in this process, but there could be one or two that this is not on their radar. And, just like the property owners, and I guess for clarity, to make sure that everybody has the same information.
And unfortunately, or no, yeah, it'd be like go to the website to learn more.
Yeah. So, yeah, which
Is
I don't know. I mean, maybe
yeah.
can you float this by the city attorney and see if there are any options, just to make sure that everybody involved is getting the
Yeah, and
information?
if property residents are owners, like a condominium approach, we would be able to get their information
Okay.
through the title company if it is a condominiumized park.
Okay. Anything else? I think Doug's regretting that he didn't provide public comment earlier. Well, I don't know. Okay. I would like to say that go ahead, Lindsay.
Well, Doug is right. 190's mailed notice will include 190A2B includes owners of manufactured homes and condominium residential units within 300 feet of any portion of the subject property. And so all adjacent property owners, including owners of manufactured homes and condominiums.
Okay.
So they will get that's part of the minimum.
Okay.
So the optional would go above and beyond that.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah. Thank you, Doug. I was trying to find a way for you to comment without going off the rails. So at this point, we're not moving this to the commission, or I'm sorry, to the council tonight, correct?
No, we still need to hold our public hearing.
Okay.
So we will, this is just a work study, talk logistics about the tour, make sure that the uses were good to go. We have something on the director's report on the agenda, and then we will be developing our agenda for the 16th, which will be the final conversation and me going through everything that I've absorbed on the work to date, getting my final notes ready to prepare your draft recommendation that will be heard before the Planning Commission public hearing.
Okay. So is there, does any of the commissioners have anything else on this general business subject before we move on to the director's report, which is the Plat extension code? Everybody's good with the uses language and ready for a field trip? Okay.
Hopefully it'll be 10 degrees cooler.
Yeah. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to move on. Thank you, everybody that's been here for this. Okay, director's report. Final recommendation for public hearing on Plat extension code. And so, Lindsay, I believe you have something for us on this.
So this is scheduled for a public hearing at your next meeting on the 16th of July. I had reviewed the meeting notes and the minutes from the presentation on the Plat extension. It sounded like the language was pretty clear. The commission didn't appear to have any major qualms or desires to amend the language as presented. So I just wanted to verbalize to you that we will, and we have sent out public notice for the public hearing on the 16th, and the draft language as presented by Kim and Charisse will be what is prepared for the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that? Nope. Okay, we'll look forward to that next meeting.
Okay.
Do you have anything else for your director's report?
We're busy, man. I moved, so I'm officially a Sequimite, and that's what you guys call me, right?
Yeah,
So,
welcome.
Officially a Sequimite, and let's see here. I'm enjoying the weather. I'm loving to get to know downtown and where I can spend all my money. But I don't have anything for the good of the order for the commission. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sure. All right, good of the order. I have a couple things for good of the order, but I wanted to see if anybody else has anything for good of the order. No? Okay. First thing that I wanted to kind of put on your radar was that last year we had a open spot for the Planning Commission, and we interviewed 2 candidates that were both exceptionally qualified, and it was there was only 1 spot available, and we felt like both of those potential commissioners could have really brought a lot to the commission. And it started a conversation about like having a courtesy position, if you will, like a non-voting commissioner that would come and they would attend the meetings, but it would kind of allow, because sometimes when a commissioner resigns, it could be sudden, or we could be working on something like this that's exceptionally in depth, and then their term is up, and we have to bring somebody else in. And so we had decided that we would like to try and move forward with that. And then what happened is another commissioner had resigned, and so we were able to bring that second candidate on without doing an interview, because it was all within just like 30 days. So we ended up with Commissioner Lefevre and Larry. And so I guess my question is that something that we still would want to pursue? And I know that Cherise had said that we would need to, maybe look at, I think the Arts Commission does something similar. We do something similar with the Chamber of Commerce, which I know is not a city of Sequim, and with the festival, just so we have somebody else that can step into that role. But we would need to create some sort of language for that.
Well, I would need to look into it a little more, because
Okay.
the authority of the Planning Commission is granted under Washington State Growth Management Act, requiring the commission to be consisting of 7 members.
Okay.
But it does by consisting of 7 members who shall be recommended by the mayor and the city council planning commission liaison member and confirmed by city council. So I will need to see what language the Arts Commission has in the
Okay.
Title II, Title II of Sequim Municipal Code, and see if that would be an allowance that the Growth Management Act would entertain.
Okay. Yeah, and it just kind of, the conversation was not centered around, giving preferential treatment to one person that we wanted to have in that position. It was just more of, having someone else in the room that, should a commissioner resign or, their term ends for whatever reason, that they would have been part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
and provide input, if we needed them to.
Yeah.
I have a comment on that.
Yes.
If their commission ends for whatever reason, I see that muddying up the waters on an expiring term, especially with the new, I guess it's potential, I'm not sure it's official yet, a competitive interview process for an expiring commissioner's term. So here's someone who sat, you would think that's kind of a preferential treatment. They would have kind of the inside
Right.
avenue on an expiring commissioner's term. It's getting muddier the more I think about it. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay.
And I don't know if that competitive interview process is just an idea or if it's been formalized or what.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, it just was something that I was thinking about the other day, and we had the discussion, and then it just, didn't know if it was something we wanted to pursue or not. So I just thought I'd bring that up. And then the other thing that I had for the good of the order is next week, Emily was curious. She wanted to get the commission's take on usually we have meals that are provided. And so it might get a little wonky if we're doing a field trip. So would you like to forego the meals, or would you be interested in something like a box lunch? So we're not tasking Emily to run and get our takeout at the last minute.
I had suggested sack lunches since it was a field trip, but she just kind of chuckled at me.
I think it's a great idea. As long as I get a juice box, I'll be happy. Any, no?
Yeah,
Okay.
make it easy on Emily.
Okay. And that's all I have for good of the order. Does anybody else have anything?
What's that?
No? Might be record time.
Oh, I'm efficient.
Okay, well, in honor of the glorious return of Commissioner Mahalik, who we're very happy is back.
I'm not sure, but at 6:37, I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, please raise your hand. Okay, this meeting is adjourned at 6:37.